Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. The hot liquid spilled across his desk as he jumped up from his chair. Red lights flashed throughout the United Earth Defense Command Center in Colorado Springs. Officers ran back and forth, shouting orders and checking their screens. "What's happening?" Jake called out to Lieutenant Maya Johnson, who was running past his office door. "Sir, you need to get to the main control room right now," Maya said, her face pale with worry. "Something big just showed up at the edge of our solar system." Jake ran through the hallways, his boots echoing on the metal floors. The Defense Command Center was buzzing with activity. Dozens of people sat at computer stations, their fingers flying over keyboards. Large screens on the walls showed star, maps and data readings that made Jake's stomach drop. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the center of it all, her gray hair pulled back tight and her face serious. She was the head of Earth's defense forces, and Jake had never seen her look so worried. "Jake, get over here," Lisa called out. "You need to see this." Jake walked over to the main screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of red dots filled the display, each one representing an enemy ship. The computer showed the number in the corner. 2,347 vessels. "Draconians," Lisa said quietly. "The biggest fleet we've ever seen." Jake felt his mouth go dry. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Draconians. They were tall, lizard-like creatures with scales instead of skin and eyes like yellow fire. For the past 50 years, they had been moving through space, taking over planet after planet. No one had ever stopped them. No one had even slowed them down. "How many ships do we have?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 312, said Captain Tony Rodriguez, walking up behind them. Tony commanded Earth's flagship, the EDS Valiant. He was a good captain, but even he looked scared. "We're outnumbered almost 8-1. Colonel Beth Williams joined their group. She was in charge of the orbital defense systems around Earth. "My satellites are picking up more data," she said. "These aren't just any Draconian ships. These are their biggest war vessels. Each one could probably destroy a city by itself." Jake looked around the room at all the worried faces. Earth had been preparing for this day for decades, ever since they first learned about the Draconian Empire. But everyone had hoped it would never come. The lizard people had conquered the bird-like Zelanti in 3 days. They had destroyed the peaceful Nordak civilization in less than a week. World after world had fallen to their massive fleets and powerful weapons. "Sir?" called out Dr. Alex Turner from across the room. He was Earth's best expert on alien life. "I'm getting something strange from our listening posts." Lisa walked over to Alex's station. Jake and the others followed. Alex's computer screen showed wave patterns and alien writing. "What is it?" Lisa asked. "Draconian communications," Alex said. "I've been studying their language for years. They're talking about Earth as their final prize and calling us the last defiant species." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What does that mean?" Alex looked up from his screen. "It means we're the last ones left. Everyone else in this part of the galaxy has either joined them or been destroyed. We're the only planet still standing up to them." The room fell silent. Jake could hear the hum of computers and the quiet beeping of warning signals. On the main screen, the red dots representing the Draconian fleet were getting closer to Earth. "How long do we have?" Tony asked. "At their current speed, about 18 hours until they reach our outer defenses," Maya reported from her station. Lisa took a deep breath. "All right, people. This is what we've been training for. Beth, I want all orbital platforms at full power. Tony, get the fleet ready for battle. Jake, you'll coordinate ground-based defenses." Everyone started to move, but then something strange happened. The red dots on the screen suddenly stopped moving. "Wait," Maya called out. "They're not advancing anymore." Everyone turned to look at the main display. The Draconian fleet had come to a complete stop just past Pluto's orbit. They sat there in space, not moving forward or backward. "That's unusual," Alex said, adjusting his glasses. "According to everything I know about Draconian battle tactics, they should be attacking right now. They always attack immediately after arriving at a target system. Maybe they're planning something, Beth suggested. Or maybe they're waiting for more ships, Tony added. But hours passed, and the Draconian fleet didn't move. They just stayed, there at the edge of the solar system, like they were watching and waiting. Earth's defenders stayed at their posts, ready for battle, but no attack came. As night fell over Colorado Springs, Jake stood by the large windows of the command center, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, thousands of enemy ships waited, in the darkness. But for some reason they weren't attacking. This has never happened before, Alex said, walking up beside Jake. In every recorded case, the Draconians attack within hours of arrival, but they've been sitting there for almost a full day now. Maybe they're scared, Jake said, though he didn't really believe it. Alex shook his head. Draconians don't get scared, at least not in any way we understand. They're conquerors. It's what they do. Jake continued to stare out at the night sky. Something was different about this time. He could feel it. The Draconians had come to destroy Earth, just like they had destroyed so many other worlds. But for some reason, they were waiting. What Jake didn't know was that this waiting would change everything. Not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since the Draconian fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 3 long weeks of waiting and watching. Captain Sam Davis stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, the EDS Horizon, staring at the sensor readings. That made no sense. "Captain, I'm getting those weird energy patterns again," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Karen Bell. "The Draconian ships are doing something, but I can't figure out what." Sam walked over to look at her screen. Strange waves of energy were coming from the alien fleet, but they weren't weapon signatures. They weren't communication signals either. They were something else entirely. "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" Sam asked. Karen shook her head. "Never, sir. It's like they're arguing with each other, maybe. The energy patterns keep changing, getting stronger and weaker." Back on Earth, Dr. Kate Morgan was having trouble sleeping. She had been studying every piece of information about the Draconians that Earth had collected over the years. Something was bothering her, something important that she couldn't quite understand. She sat in her office at the University of Colorado, surrounded by books and computer screens. The room was dark except for the blue glow from her monitor. She had been reading the same reports over and over again. "Every species conquered in days," she said to herself, reading from her notes. "The Zelanti bird people defeated in 3 days. The Nordak peace lovers 7 days. The metal-skinned Corvin 5 days." She looked up from her screen. "But we've been fighting for 3 weeks." Kate stood up and walked to her window. She could see the lights of the Defense Command Center in the distance. "We're not fighting," she said out loud. "We're just sitting here. And so are they." The next morning, Kate drove to the command center with her research files. She found Commander Jake Morrison in the main control room, looking tired and worried. He had dark circles under his eyes from staying awake too long. "Jake, I need to show you something," Kate said, spreading her papers on a nearby table. Jake walked over, grateful for any distraction from the endless waiting. "What did you find?" "Look at this pattern," Kate said, pointing to her notes. "Every single species the Draconians have conquered fell within 1 week of first contact. Every single one. The longest any world lasted was 9 days. "Okay," Jake said. "What does that mean for us?" "It means we're already setting records," Kate said excitedly. "We've lasted 3 weeks. No one has ever done that before." Jake felt a small spark of hope, but he tried not to get too excited. Maybe they're just planning a bigger attack. "Maybe," Kate said. "But what if they're not? What if something else is happening?" Meanwhile, far out in space on the Draconian, flagship Fleet Commander Zorax was pacing back and forth in his command chamber. His yellow eyes glowed with anger and confusion. His scales, normally a bright green color, had turned darker with stress. 21 days. He hissed to his second-in-command, war leader Kresh. 21 days we have been sitting here like hatchlings afraid of the water. Kresh kept his head low. He could smell the anger coming from his commander, and it made him nervous. The humans have not attacked us, Supreme Commander. They have not surrendered either. Our battle plans did not account for this. Our battle plans are perfect, Zorax snapped. We arrive. We demand surrender. They refuse. We crush them. It has worked for 200 years. Yes, Supreme Commander, Kresh said carefully. But the humans are not following the pattern. They are just waiting. Zorax stopped pacing and stared out at the blue planet in the distance. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that simply waited. It was making him feel strange inside, like something was crawling under his scales. Back on Earth, Ambassador Ryan Clark was having his own problems. He worked at the United Nations building in New York, and his job was to talk to other alien species in the galaxy. His communication system had been buzzing nonstop for days. Ambassador Clark, his assistant Jenny Walsh said, running into his office. We're getting calls from everywhere. The Corvan metal people, the surviving Zelanti, even some species we've never heard of before. Ryan sat down at his desk and activated his communication screen. The face of a Corvan appeared, its metal features showing what Ryan had learned to recognize as excitement. Human Ryan Clark, the alien said in broken English. Your species still fights the Scale Devils? We're still here, Ryan said. We haven't given up. The Corvan's metal face seemed to brighten. 3 weeks you resist. No species has done this. You give hope to the galaxy. Similar messages came in all day. Alien species that had been hiding, or living as slaves under Draconian rule, were watching Earth's resistance with growing amazement. For the first time in decades, someone was standing up to the reptilian empire. Dr. Alex Turner had been listening to Draconian communications around the clock. What he heard was starting to worry him, but not in the way he expected. Jake, you need to hear this, Alex said over the intercom. Jake hurried to Alex's lab. The alien language expert looked exhausted but excited. The Draconians are starting to argue among themselves, Alex said. I can hear it in their radio chatter. Their officers are questioning orders. Some of their ships have stopped responding to the main fleet. What does that mean? Jake asked. I'm not sure, Alex said. But I don't think they know how to handle a long fight. Everything I've learned about them suggests they expect quick victories. When they don't get them. Alex didn't finish his sentence, but Jake understood. The mighty Draconian Empire, conquerors of dozens of worlds, might have a weakness, and that weakness might be something as simple as patience. As the sun set on Earth's 22nd day of resistance, people around the world were starting to realize that something incredible was happening. They weren't winning the war, but they weren't losing it either. They were doing something no other species had ever done. They were making the Draconians wait. Lieutenant Maya Johnson was eating a sandwich at her monitoring station when something amazing happened. The coffee she was drinking nearly spilled all over her keyboard as she stared at the screen in shock. Commander Morrison, you need to see this right now, Maya called out, her voice shaking with excitement. Jake ran across the room to Maya's station. Other officers gathered around them, including Captain Sam Davis, who had just returned from his patrol mission. Everyone looked at the data Maya was pointing to on her screen. The Draconian ships are breaking down, Maya said. Not from battle, damage. Something is happening inside their fleet. The screen showed the alien ships in space, but now many of the red dots were flickering. Some were turning orange, which meant their power systems were failing. A few had turned completely gray, meaning they were dead in space. How is that possible? Jake asked. We haven't fired a single shot at them. Dr. Victor Hayes hurried into the control room. He was Earth's top expert on how alien minds worked. Behind him walked Dr. Amy Parker, who studied alien behavior patterns. Both of them looked excited and worried at the same time. We think we know what's happening, Victor said, breathing hard from running. Amy and I have been working together for the past week, studying everything we know about Draconian psychology. Amy spread out papers on a nearby table. The papers were covered with charts and diagrams that looked very complicated. Draconians aren't just aggressive because they want to be, she explained. They have to be. It's built into their brains. What do you mean? asked Captain Tony Rodriguez, who had just arrived from his ship. Think of it like this, Victor said. Imagine you're really, really hungry, but you can only eat food that you catch yourself, and you can only catch it if you run very fast. Draconians are like that, but instead of food, they need quick victories. Amy nodded. Their entire species evolved to fight short, fast wars. When they don't get quick wins or quick losses, something bad happens to their minds. Jake felt his heart starting to beat faster. Are you saying that waiting is actually hurting them? Exactly, Victor said. Every day we don't surrender and every day they don't attack us, they get more and more confused and angry. It's like torture for them. Dr. Kate Morgan joined the group, carrying more research files. I've been looking at historical patterns, she said. The Draconians have never had a war last more than 2 weeks, ever. We're now on day 28. What happens to them when wars go on too long? Jake asked. Amy looked at her notes. Based on what we can figure out from other species that studied them, they start to go crazy. They can't think straight. They begin fighting each other instead of their enemies. As if to prove her point, Maya's monitoring station started beeping loudly. Sir, I'm detecting weapons fire in the Draconian fleet, she reported. But they're not shooting at us, they're shooting at each other. Everyone crowded around Maya's screen. The display showed several Draconian ships firing on other Draconian ships. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the alien fleet began to tear itself apart. This is incredible, Sam said quietly. They're destroying themselves. Meanwhile, on Earth, ordinary people were starting to understand what was happening. Mayor Patricia Lewis of New Geneva was holding a town meeting in the city hall. The room was packed with worried citizens who wanted to know what they should do. The government has asked us to keep doing what we're doing, Patricia told the crowd. Go to work, take care of your families, and wait. Apparently, waiting is now our secret weapon. In the Mars colonies, Governor Nathan Ford was having a similar meeting with the people who lived on the Red Planet. I know this sounds crazy, he told them, but our best strategy right now is to be patient. The longer we wait, the more problems the Draconians have. People around the solar system began organizing what they called patience groups. Families would get together and practice waiting quietly. Children learned games about being still and calm. Adults shared stories about times when waiting had helped them solve problems. Back on the Draconian flagship, Fleet Commander Zorax was having the worst month of his life. His scales had turned almost black with stress, and he couldn't sleep or eat properly. Every day that passed without a battle made him feel sicker. Supreme Commander, War Leader Kresh said carefully as he entered Zorax's chamber. 3 more ships have stopped following orders. Their crews are fighting among themselves. Zorax let out a long, angry hiss. This is not possible. We are Draconians. We are conquerors. We do not wait. The humans are making us wait, Kresh said. They are not attacking us, but they are not surrendering either. Our warriors do not understand what to do. Then we attack now, Zorax decided. Ready all ships for immediate assault. But when Kresh tried to give the orders, half the ships in the fleet didn't respond. Their crews were too busy fighting each other or hiding in their quarters, too confused and angry to follow commands. Dr. Alex Turner had been listening to Draconian communications day and night. What he heard now made him call Jake immediately. Jake, the Draconian fleet is falling apart, Alex said over the phone. I can hear panic in their voices. Some ships are trying to leave, others are attacking their own allies. Their whole command structure is breaking down. Jake looked around the control room at his fellow humans. For weeks they had been scared that they were about to die. Now they were realizing that they might actually win this war, not by fighting, but by being stubborn. How long do you think they can last? Jake asked Alex. Based on what I'm hearing, Alex said, not much longer. They're going insane out there. As night fell over Earth, Jake stood by the windows of the command center and looked up at the stars. Somewhere in the darkness, the most feared fleet in the galaxy was destroying itself. All because humans had done the one thing no other species had ever done when faced with Draconian conquest. They had refused to give the Draconians what they needed most, a quick fight with a quick ending. Captain Tony Rodriguez could not believe what he was seeing through the windows of his ship, the EDS Valiant. The mighty Draconian fleet, which had terrified the entire galaxy for decades, was tearing itself apart in front of his eyes. "Sir, we're getting signals from 17 different Draconian ships," his communications officer reported. "They're all trying to surrender at the same time." Tony looked at the main screen on his bridge. Explosions were happening everywhere in the alien fleet. Some ships were shooting at others. Some were flying away in random directions. Others were just floating dead in space with no power at all. "Get me Admiral Carter," Tony ordered. Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was facing the hardest decision of her career. She stood in the main control room, surrounded by her officers, all waiting for her to tell them what to do. "Ma'am, we're getting surrender signals from over 200 Draconian ships," reported Lieutenant Maya Johnson. "But we're also detecting that many of their ships are still fighting each other." Commander Jake Morrison walked up to Lisa. "What do we do? Do we accept their surrenders? Do we attack while they're weak? Do we just keep waiting?" Lisa looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. These people had trusted her to protect Earth, and somehow they had managed to do something impossible. But now she had to decide what came next. "Colonel Williams, what's your opinion?" Lisa asked. Colonel Beth Williams stepped forward. "I think we should accept the surrenders," she said. "These Draconian soldiers didn't choose to be part of an evil empire. They're just following orders, and now they're going crazy because their leaders made a mistake. But some of them are still dangerous," argued Captain Sam Davis. "My sensors show that about half their fleet is still trying to hold together. They might attack us if we get too close." Dr. Victor Hayes spoke up from his position near the communication station. "Admiral, I've been studying the messages we're getting from the Draconian ships. Most of their crews are completely confused. They don't understand what's happening to them. They're scared." Lisa made her decision. "Jake, I want you to take a small group of ships and approach the Draconian fleet. But be very careful. Only get close to the ships that are clearly surrendering. Stay away from any that might still be dangerous." Jake nodded. "Yes, ma'am." 2 hours later, Jake was leading 5 Earth ships toward the broken Draconian fleet. What they found was both amazing and sad. The once powerful alien warships were now floating helplessly in space. Many had holes blown in their sides from fighting each other. Others were spinning slowly, their crews apparently unable to control them. "This is incredible," said Dr. Alex Turner, who had come along to help communicate with any Draconians they found. "I can hear them on the radio. They're not speaking like warriors anymore. They sound like lost children." Jake's ship, the EDS Denver, approached one of the larger Draconian vessels. The alien ship was not moving and had no weapons powered up. Its hull was damaged, and it was sending out a signal that Alex recognized as a cry for help. "Can we talk to them?" Jake asked. Alex worked on his communication equipment for several minutes. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It was deep and rough, the way Draconian voices always sounded, but something was different about it. "Human ship," the voice said in broken English. We are broken. Our minds are broken. We do not understand what has happened to us." Jake looked at Alex, who nodded that it was safe to respond. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earth Defense. Are you surrendering?" "Surrender?" The Draconian voice sounded confused. "We do not know this word anymore. We know only confusion. We came here to conquer quickly, but you made us wait. Waiting has poisoned our thoughts." Alex leaned over to Jake and whispered, "They literally can't think straight anymore. The long standoff has damaged their ability to reason." Jake spoke into the communicator again. "Do you need help?" There was a long pause. Then the Draconian voice came back, and it sounded very tired. "We need to go home, but we do not remember how. We do not remember anything except that we have failed." Over the next several hours, Jake's team found the same thing on ship after ship. The Draconian crews were alive, but their minds were not working properly. Some of them just sat in their rooms, staring at nothing. Others walked around their ships in circles, unable to remember what they were supposed to be doing. "It's like they've forgotten how to be Draconians," Alex explained to Jake. "Their whole identity was based on quick conquest. When that didn't happen, their minds couldn't handle it. Meanwhile, all across the galaxy, something amazing was happening. On worlds that had been conquered by the Draconians years ago, the local populations were hearing the news about Earth's victory, and they were starting to fight back. Ambassador Ryan Clark was getting reports from everywhere. "Jake, you won't believe what's happening out there," he said over the radio. "The Zelanti bird people are attacking Draconian bases on their homeworld. The Nordak are destroying Draconian ships in their system. Even species we've never heard of are joining the fight." Dr. Kate Morgan had been studying the reports coming in from across space. "It's like a chain reaction," she told anyone who would listen. "For 50 years, everyone was afraid of the Draconians because they seemed unbeatable. But now that we've shown they can be defeated, everyone wants to try." On the planet Zelanti Prime, the bird-like creatures were pulling down statues of Draconian conquerors. On Nordak, the peaceful aliens were taking over Draconian military bases. On a dozen other worlds, species that had been slaves for decades were declaring their freedom. "The Draconian Empire is falling apart everywhere," reported Ambassador Clark. "And it all started because we were too stubborn to give up." Back in space, Jake was making a difficult decision. The Draconian crews were helpless, but their ships were still dangerous. Some of the vessels were leaking dangerous chemicals. Others had weapons that might go off by accident. "We can't just leave them here to die," Jake said to his team. "But we can't trust them either," pointed out Captain Rodriguez over the radio. Dr. Amy Parker, who had been quiet during most of the mission, finally spoke up. "Commander, I don't think we need to worry about them attacking us anymore. From what I can see, they're not capable of organized action. Their fleet is completely broken." Jake looked out at the scattered Draconian ships floating in the darkness of space. Some were drifting away from the others. Some were still shooting at each other occasionally. Most were just sitting there, their crews too confused to do anything at all. "This is it," Jake said quietly. "This is how the mighty Draconian Empire ends. Not in a great battle, but in madness and confusion." As Jake's team headed back to Earth, they left behind the ruins of what had once been the most feared military force in the galaxy. The Draconian fleet that had arrived to conquer Earth was now scattered, broken, and lost. And the news of their defeat was spreading across the stars, giving hope to every species that had ever dreamed of freedom. 6 months had passed since the Draconian fleet first arrived at Earth. Now Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the EDS Freedom, looking out at empty space where the alien fleet used to be. The last of the Draconian vessels had vanished 3 weeks ago, drifting away into the darkness like lost ghosts. "Sir, we're getting another message from the Zelanti homeworld," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh. "They want to thank Earth again for showing them how to fight back." Jake smiled. Every day brought new messages like this from across the galaxy. Species that had been slaves for decades were now free, and they all wanted to thank the humans who had started it all. Admiral Lisa Carter, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, entered the bridge. She looked much more relaxed than she had during the long months of waiting for the Draconians to attack. "Jake, I have some interesting news," Lisa said. "Ambassador Clark just got back from the Galactic Council meeting. They want to make Earth the new leader of the free worlds." Jake raised his eyebrows. "Really? 6 months ago, most of the galaxy didn't even know we existed." "That was before we did the impossible," Lisa said. "Before we showed everyone that the Draconians could be beaten." Dr. Amy Parker walked over to join their conversation. She had been traveling around the galaxy for the past few months, studying what had happened to other Draconian fleets. What she found was amazing. "It's happening everywhere," Amy reported. "Every Draconian military group in the galaxy is falling apart. Word spread about what happened here at Earth, and now other species are trying the same thing. They're refusing to fight quick battles, and it's driving the Draconians crazy." "What about the Draconians themselves?" Jake asked. "Are they still out there?" Amy nodded sadly. "Some of them are, but they're not the same as they used to be. Most of them are just wandering around space, completely lost. A few have tried to go back to their home planets, but even there, they can't remember how to live normal lives." Captain Sam Davis arrived on the bridge carrying a data pad full of reports. He had been promoted to admiral and was now in charge of Earth's exploration fleets. "Jake, you should see what we found in the old Draconian territory," Sam said excitedly. "Planet after planet where the local people have torn down every Draconian building and statue. They're building new cities, new governments, new lives." Jake felt proud but also a little sad. The Draconians had been terrible conquerors, but they were still living beings. What had happened to them was both a victory and a tragedy. Dr. Kate Morgan joined the group, carrying her research files as always. She had spent the past months writing a book about what Earth had accomplished. "I've been studying the historical impact of what we did," Kate said. "In the entire recorded history of the galaxy, no one has ever defeated a major empire without firing a shot. We didn't win through violence or superior technology. We won by being patient. And stubborn," added Tony Rodriguez, who had also been promoted to admiral. He was now in charge of training new Earth officers. "Don't forget stubborn." Ambassador Ryan Clark appeared on the bridge's communication screen from his office on Earth. Behind him, Jake could see representatives from dozens of different alien species, all waiting to talk to Earth's leaders. "Sorry to interrupt," Ryan said, "but I have some big news. The former Draconian colonies want to form something called the Terran Alliance. They want Earth to be the leader." Jake looked around at his friends and fellow officers. "The Terran Alliance?" "Named after Earth," Ryan explained. "Terra is the old Latin name for our planet. They want to create a new organization based on the principles that helped us defeat the Draconians. Patience, endurance, and never giving up." Dr. Alex Turner, who had been quietly listening to alien communications in the corner of the bridge, suddenly looked up from his equipment. "I'm getting something interesting," Alex said. "There's a signal coming from the old Draconian home system. It's very weak, but I think it's a message." Everyone gathered around Alex's station as he worked to clean up the signal. Finally, a familiar, rough voice came through the speakers. It was a Draconian voice, but it sounded different than before. Older, tireder, and somehow wiser. "People of Earth," the voice said slowly. "This is former Fleet Commander Zorax of the Draconian Empire. I was the one who led the attack on your world." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. This was the alien who had tried to destroy Earth. "I want you to know," Zorax continued, "that you have taught us something we never knew before. You have shown us that there are other ways to be strong besides conquering others. My people are learning to live differently now. Some of us are learning to farm. Others are learning to build instead of destroy. It is hard for us, but it is better than the madness we felt when we could not defeat you." The message paused for a moment, then continued. "You saved your world by refusing to fight us quickly, but you also saved us from ourselves. For this, some of us are grateful. We hope that someday, when we have learned to be better, we might be able to talk to you as friends instead of enemies." The message ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his fellow humans and realized that they had accomplished something even more amazing than they had thought. They hadn't just saved Earth. They had helped save an entire species from their own destructive nature. "So what do we do now?" Jake asked Lisa. Lisa smiled. "Now we help build a better galaxy. We teach other species what we learned about patience and endurance. We show them that being strong doesn't mean being violent." 6 months later, Jake stood in the same spot where he had first learned about the Draconian attack. But now, instead of looking at enemy ships, he was looking at the flags of 50 different worlds, all flying together as part of the Terran Alliance. Children from Earth were playing with young aliens from a dozen different species, learning games about cooperation instead of conquest. Adults from various worlds were working together to build new technologies and explore new parts of the galaxy. "It's funny," Jake said to Dr. Amy Parker, who was standing beside him. "We always thought our biggest weakness was that we didn't know when to give up. But it turned out to be our greatest strength." Amy nodded. "Sometimes the thing that makes you different is the thing that makes you special." As Jake watched the sunset over the new galactic headquarters on Earth, he thought about all the species across the stars who were now free because humans had been too stubborn to surrender. The galaxy was a better place, not because Earth had the biggest guns or the fastest ships, but because humans had something even more powerful. They had the patience to wait, the strength to endure, and the wisdom to know that sometimes the best way to win is simply to refuse to lose.